今日我哋學 direct object and indirect object. Give me that book. Give it to me. Which one are direct objects and which one are indirect objects? What is an object? An object in grammar is a part of a sentence after the verb. It refers to someone or something involved in the subject's performance of the verb. It is what the verb is being done to. As an example, the following sentence is given. Peter wrote the letter. Peter is the subject, the doer or performer. Wrote is a verb that refers to the action. The letter is the object involved in the action. Transitive and intransitive verbs. A verb can be classified as transitive or intransitive according to whether it takes or doesn't take an object. If a verb takes object, then it is a transitive verb. For example, they played soccer. The verb play take one object, soccer. Another example, they sent him a postcard. The verb send take two objects, him and a postcard. If a verb doesn't take an object, then it is an intransitive verb. For example, she lies. The verb lie doesn't take any object. The building collapsed. The verb collapse doesn't take any object. Now let's look at the types of objects. There are two types of objects, direct and indirect objects. Let's look at the direct object. A direct object answers the question what or whom. For example, David repaired his car. His car is the direct object of the verb prepared. So, what did David prepare? Another example, he invited Sue to the party. Sue is the direct object of the verb invite. So, whom did he invite? Let us look at another type of object, indirect object. An indirect object answers the question to whom, for what. An indirect object is the reception of the direct object or an otherwise affected participant in the event. There must be a direct object for an indirect object to be placed in a sentence. In other words, an indirect object cannot exist without a direct object. For example, they sent him a postcard. Him is the indirect object of the verb sent. To whom did they send a postcard? Another example, he brought his son a bike. His son is the indirect object of the verb brought. For whom did he buy the bike? Indirect objects are rare. You can read for pages before you encounter one. For an indirect object to appear, a sentence must have a direct object. Direct object follow transitive verb is a type of action verb. If you can identify subject and verb in a sentence, then finding the direct object, if one exists, is easy. So just remember this formula. Subject add verb add what or who equals to direct object. Here are examples for the formula. Grandpa built a sandcastle on the beach. Grandpa is a subject. Built is a verb. Grandpa built what? A sandcastle. So sandcastle is a direct object. Another example. Sammy and Maria brought Ben to the party. Sammy and Maria are subjects. Brought is a verb. Sammy and Maria brought who? Ben to the party, so Ben is the direct object. Another example. To explain the broken lamp, we told a lie. We is the subject. Told is the verb. We told what? We told lie. So lie is the direct object. When someone or something gets the direct object, that word is the indirect object. Look at these new versions of the sentence above. Grandpa put Mary a sandcastle on the beach. Grandpa is the subject. Built is the verb. Grandpa built what? The sandcastle. So sandcastle is the direct object. Who got the sandcastle? It's Mary. So Mary is the indirect object. Let's look at another example. So that Darren would have company at the party. Sammy and Maria brought him a blind date. So Sammy and Maria are the subjects. Brought is the verb. Sammy and Maria brought two. Okay, here should be Sammy and Maria brought what? Okay, here, what? So they brought what? They brought a blind date, a direct object. And who got the blind date? It's him. That is a Darren. So him is the indirect object. Let's look at another example. To explain the broken lamp, we told Mom a lie. Here, we is the subject. Told is the verb. We told what? We told a lie. So lie is the indirect object. Who got the lie? Mom got the lie. So Mom is the indirect object. Sometimes the indirect object will occur in a prepositional phrase beginning with to or for. Read these two sentences. Thomas paid the mechanic $200 to fix the squeaky brakes. Thomas paid $200 to the mechanic to fix the squeaky brakes. In both versions, the mechanic, that is the indirect object, gets the $200, that is the direct object. When the direct object is a pronoun rather than a noun, putting the indirect objects in a prepositional phrase becomes a necessary modification. The preposition smooths out the sentence so that it sounds natural. Check out these examples. Mr. Green didn't have any money for a sandwich, so Mrs. Green purchased him it. This version sounds awful. But now try the sentence with the indirect object after a preposition. Mr. Green didn't have any money for a sandwich, so Mrs. Green purchased it for him. Locating the indirect object him in a prepositional phrase lets the sentence sound natural. Now read this example. After Michael took generous spoonfuls of stuffing, he passed us it. This version sounds awful too, but with a quick fix, we can solve the problem. After Michael took generous spoonfuls of stuffing, he passed it to us. With the indirect object us in a prepositional phrase, we have an improvement. Let us look at the grammar rules of direct object and indirect object. In English language, verbs with two objects are followed by two different types of objects. Let's have a look at the following example. I sent Sue some flowers is the same as I sent some flowers to Sue. These two sentences contain both kinds of object. Flowers are the direct object. It refers to what I sent. Sue is the indirect object. It refers to whom I sent it. The word order in these two sentences is different. Sue and flowers can be placed first or second in each of these examples. Let us look at the changeable word orders in English sentences. If the indirect object comes first in a sentence, there's no preposition. These are the examples. They gave Harold a new car. Harold is the indirect object, so there's no preposition. Mrs. Lee offers the girls a cake. The girls is the indirect object, so here's no preposition. My grandma always wishes me a good luck. Me is the indirect object, and there's no preposition. If it comes to second, the it refers to the indirect object. So if the indirect object comes to second, a preposition must be used. Here's the example. They gave a new car to Harold. Now Harold is the indirect object and it comes to second, so there's a preposition. Mrs. Lee offers a cake to the girls. The girls come to the second, so here's the preposition to. My grandma always wishes a good luck to me. Now me comes to the second, and the preposition to must be used. If the indirect object is a pronoun, for example it or this, etc., and when it comes first, then we must use a preposition. Let's compare the difference in the following example. I brought it for my sister. Not I brought my sister it. Can you send it to him? Not can you send him it? I'll get it for you as soon as I can, but not I'll get you it as soon as I can. Let's look at some notes. If the verbs read or write are only followed by the indirect objects, a preposition must be used. For example, Please read to me. Not, please read me. You must write to your parents next weekend. But not, you must write to your parent next weekend. The following examples, however, will show the possible positions of two different objects that are used after a verb, read and write. You can write, read me the letter, or read the letter to me. You can say, you must write your parents an email, or you must write an email to your parents. We can use the verbs promise, show, and tell with the indirect objects only, but without a preposition. Let's compare the examples. I can't promise you. Or you can say, I can't promise it to you. You can say, show him, or show it to him. Another example is, can you tell me? But remember, we say, can you say it to me? After the verb say, we must use the pronoun and the preposition in the English language. Now, here's a task for you. Complete the sentence with the word in brackets in the correct order. You may pause the video to complete the exercise. The answers will be shown in the next page. Here are the answers. Here is another task for you to complete. Rewrite the complete sentence correctly. The first one has been done for you. The answers will be shown on the next page. Here are the answers. Here is the last exercise for you. Complete the following sentences and use the prepositions if necessary. The answers will be shown on the next page. Here are the answers. See you.